Have you ever heard of Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs, and Steel? It's a masterpiece that solves the grand puzzle of human history, and it all starts with a simple, eye-opening question asked by a local politician named Yali in New Guinea. He asked Diamond, "Why is it that you white people developed so much cargo and brought it to New Guinea, while we black people have little cargo of our own?" Makes you wonder, right? Why did Europeans end up conquering and dominating the world? In the past, people lazily assumed it was because white people were somehow racially superior. But Jared Diamond completely rejects that racist myth. He argues that it's not about biological differences between humans, but rather the environment and geography we stand on. In other words, geography was destiny. To understand what he means, we have to go back about 11,000 years to the dawn of agriculture. First off, the Eurasian continent, especially regions like the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, got a massive stroke of luck right from the start. They were surrounded by wild plants and animals just begging to be domesticated. Grains like wheat and barley, plus animals like sheep, goats, and cows, were all native to that area. And there is another critical difference. The Eurasian continent stretches out horizontally along an east-west axis. This is the real secret. Moving east and west on Earth means staying at the same latitude, so the climate, day length, and seasonal changes remain pretty much the same. Because of this, farming techniques and animal husbandry developed in the Middle East could easily sweep across to Europe and all the way to China without changing their core biology. It was like technology traveling on a high-speed express lane across the continent. On the other hand, look at the Americas or Africa. Their maps stretch vertically along a north-south axis. Moving north and south means cutting across drastically different climates and ecological zones. A crop thriving in the cool highlands of the Andes would die within days if brought down to tropical lowlands. As a result, spreading agricultural innovations or culture to neighboring regions in the Americas and Africa was an uphill battle. The game was rigged right from the starting line. What happens when agriculture booms? Food surpluses began. With surplus food, people no longer needed to hunt every day. They could settle down in one place, and the population exploded. A dense population naturally led to specialization. Not everyone had to farm anymore. Some became metal workers, administrators, or politicians. This led to writing systems and centralized governments. Now, this brings us to the two ultimate deciding factors that allowed Eurasians to conquer the world: the germs and steel mentioned right in the title. First, steel was born out of a high-density, highly specialized society. Since not everyone had to farm, some people started mining ores and lighting fires to work with hard metals. Moving from bronze to iron and steel, they crafted devastating weapons and armor that gave them an overwhelming military advantage. Even scarier is germs, or infectious diseases. Deadly crowd diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza actually originated directly from the domesticated animals we lived with. For millennia, Eurasians lived in close daily contact with pigs, cows, horses, and sheep. Countless people died of disease along the way. But over generations, they naturally built up a biological resistance and immunity to these pathogens. Meanwhile, the Americas had virtually no large mammals suitable for domestication, save for the llama. This meant Native Americans had zero prior exposure or immunity to these terrifying animal-borne plagues brought by Europeans. So, what happened when Columbus and other Europeans crossed the Atlantic? Without any immunity, Native Americans collapsed helplessly before a single invisible virus, like smallpox. Before a real war even began, epidemics wiped out up to 90% of the indigenous population. The germs did the conquering before the Europeans even had to draw a sword. Ultimately, the message of the book is crystal clear. Europeans didn't dominate the world because they were smarter or racially superior. It was simply because the landmass they inhabited stretched east-west, making it easy for technology to spread. They had plenty of useful domesticatable animals, yielding rich food supplies. And thanks to those animals, they gained deadly resistance and metalworking technology long before anyone else. At the end of the day, human history isn't a story of who is inherently superior, but a story shaped by the starting conditions handed down by our environments. That's the core message of Guns, Germs, and Steel. Hearing it this way, doesn't human history look a little different to you?